And welcome to the Midday Brief. I am Kimini Nyamani Amano. In our headlines, 2 officers of the Winneba District Police shot and killed in gun battle with suspected armed robbers. We'll get you an update on that situation. Ahead in business, Ghana placed second among 12 countries that have high yield on their bonds. And in foreign news, South Africa's president says Nelson Mandela's discharge from hospital after nearly 3 months of treatment shows he has made progress. When I return, I'll bring you details of these stories and plenty more. Now, 2 officers of the Winneba District Police were shot and killed in a gun battle with suspected armed robbers Monday night, a police spokesperson has said. A police source has also told MyJoy9.com that the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Al-Hassan, and other senior police officers are in Winneba to assess the situation. And joining us by telephone is Richard Kojo-Nyako, who is a Central Regional Correspondent. Hello, Richard.
Hello.
What's the situation in Winneba at the moment?
Well, the situation is calm, but just that the policemen and the police personnel here are very angry. We are yet to be briefed by the Winneba Police Commander, but what I have gleaned from the ground since I touched base here at Winneba is that the incident happened around 9 p.m. yesterday at Gomwa Pomazi, specifically at the Pan-African University College. We are told that the armed robbers, numbering about 6, went to the university to rob the students. After the act, they proceeded to the police barracks, they knocked on one of the policemen's door, and shot the policeman. There was another policeman who was also coming from duty and was going to rescue the other colleague, and he was also shot. In the process, another student was also injured, and so this situation attracted the IGP's attention, and he and other senior police officials have come to the Winneba police station. They've briefed the media here, and the IGP has been speaking to the media, and he says basically that this situation calls for some reform. It wasn't exactly a gun, but the police, from what we've gleaned from the ground, it was like the armed robbers taking fight in police.
I see. And what do we know about the police trace of these armed robbers? I believe we lost Richard. Richard was giving us an update on the situation, and he says the police is yet to address members of the press in the region. When they do that, we'll bring you the update on the situation. But let's talk about our forests now. And 29 forestry prosecutors have been sworn into office at the Forestry Commission to help curb the challenge of forest depletion in Ghana. The 29, who were technical staff of the commission, were taken through a 6 months intensive training to become prosecutors. They are the first ever forestry prosecutors to swear an oath of secrecy.
The prosecutors were taken through wildlife and forest-related offences training in line with the Public Prosecutors Instrument 1976 E14, which mandates them to prosecute criminals under the forest and wildlife laws. This move by the Forestry Commission was necessitated in the face of incessant and alarming illegal activities in the forest and wildlife sector, such as animal poaching, illegal chainsaw operations, and mining. These illegal activities invariably come with their attendant environmental problems, which constitute a huge financial loss to the state. Addressing the gathering on behalf of the Chief Justice, Chief State Attorney Dorothy Afiye-Ansah expressed the joy of the Judicial Service and advised the newly sworn-in prosecutors not to hesitate to seek help from the Judicial Service when needed.
Now let's stay on our forest, and the Commission has been waging an all-out war against the illegal chainsaw operators with a view to protecting Ghana's remaining forest cover. Illegal chainsaw operators continue to pose a threat to the survival of the nation's forest. The Tano Orphan Forest Reserve is one which has frequently been under threat by illegal operators. We understand that 62 forest and wildlife guards have been killed through fatal attacks and cold-blooded murder by illegal chainsaw and galamsey operators within the last 2 years. Now, a total of 120 wildlife and forest guards had been attacked between 2011 and 2013. Now, with me in the studio to find out what the Commission is doing to protect its officers who are on the ground to deal with these ruthless operators is Raphael Yeboah. He's Executive Director for Forest Services Division of the Forestry Commission. Good afternoon to you, and many thanks for joining us on the brief.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Right. Let's look at how you go about protecting, our forests. Let's look at the work itself.
Yes, basically what is done is that we have an army of forest guards. Currently, for the whole country, we used to have about 900 forest guards across the country that are actually frontline staff who does patrolling of some of these forest areas. But it's interesting to mention here that most of the areas are inaccessible and are in very remote areas, so it's really a tough exercise to be able to go to these areas. So they are not armed. They go to the forest either in twos or in singles, and that is how we protect some of these gazetted forest reserves in the country. Yes.
How do you work, because these forests are within communities?
Yes.
How do you work with the community itself when it comes to protecting our forests?
Yeah, thank you very much. For some time now, the work used to be exclusively for forestry officers who were paid. But currently what we're doing is that we are actually looking at community-based organizations to assist the Forestry Commission in the protection of these areas.
Right.
And unfortunately, they are not paid, and the motivation actually for doing the work is just giving them some protected clothing and at times some contract to do some cleaning of forest boundaries.
Why are they not paid if you need their help to be able to protect the forests?
Yeah, I think we're talking about quite a large number of people.
I see.
And then also the whole span of the country, so that if we were going to be paying directly these people together with their social security and other benefits, that would be a large pay bill or wage on the government budget, and this is extremely difficult to handle. That is why they are not paid. But I thought some little token could be of help to get these people putting up their best.
I see. And so the fact that they are not paid, does it affect even the relationship with the Forestry Commission in our bid to fight indiscriminate cutting down of our forest trees?
Yes, it does. But what is happening is that they start off highly motivated by just having a simple ID card that is working for the Forestry Commission. And after some 2-3 months, then they themselves become actually
no monetary
reward,
yes,
incentive. Then this actually they themselves become a threat to the resource. But having said that, I think why we think that they are important is that they are close to the forest fringes, so that whilst the forest guard who is responsible for 9 kilometers of forest perimeter,
I see,
the people who live directly at the forest boundaries could actually, at any point in time, be it in the night or the day, could be called upon. Immediately there are dangers to the forest.
62 guards between 2011 and 2013 lost their lives. For me, that means the people who go there to fight these ruthless operators don't get any form of protection.
Yes.
What are you putting in place? At least we know the figures now. We know how they end up brutally murdering the guards. What are the measures you've put in place now to protect these guards who come into contact with the operators?
Yes, what we're doing is that it's still been difficult to get an absolute permission for every forest guard to wield ammunition or guns. So what we've done is that we've had permission to actually constitute rapid response teams, and these are teams of 6 who actually are allowed to carry 1 or 2 pump action guns, and they move in teams and they actually station at the hotspots. So these sort of support the forest guards as they raise alarm that there are issues going on in places. So it is this rapid response team which we're trying to, as at now we have 10 across the country, and we are hoping that we will be able to increase this, and with the issue of guns, then communication systems that will also be able to relate to the center immediately. We think that we will be actually matching up with these deviants. The other thing is also the fact that from the judicial point of view, most of the time, we don't get the needed actually punishment of those that are arrested. And recently, maybe you trace the story of having trained our own prosecutors.
Right.
And about 28 people were actually graduated about 2 or 3 days ago. And these are going to be able to prosecute our cause.
Right.
And since at least they have institutional knowledge, they will be able to secure actually judgments that will actually favor us by preferring proper charges and also handling evidence that will be able to get judgment on some of these issues.
Raphael, we'll come back to you. We'll talk about this 62 deaths. I'm sure they definitely got into the hands of the police. We'll talk about how these cases, how many of these cases have been rounded up and proper arrests made. Yeah. But let's go back to the telephone line. You remember I told you about the fact that 2 police officers had been killed by armed robbers, and our correspondent from the Central Region, Richard Nyakon, was telling us that from his observance or from putting his ear to the ground, he's noticed or he's realized that it wasn't exactly a gun battle between the police and the armed robbers. The armed robbers just caught the police unaware and shot these 2 men. Richard is back on the line. Let's find out if any arrests or any leads at all have been made as far as getting these robbers to book is concerned. Hello, Richard.
Hello.
Right, and so how has the police made any arrests yet?
No, the police are still on the lookout for the robbers. They are investigating, and so they have increased their numbers. Some reinforcement teams have been brought from elsewhere around the region, and so they are assisting those policemen at Winneba to apprehend those suspects. But the mood here at Winneba is not a good one at all, because the residents and the students of the Pan-African Christian College, they are very, very scared, because according to them, if the police can be subjected to this kind of torture, then they are not safe at all. And so they have called on the IGP to do something about it, to provide adequate security so that they can also fare well in their going in and their coming out.
We also understand that there were some injured persons as well. How many are we looking at?
Well, for now, I've been told that it is only one person who was injured, and the person is a student. The person has been rushed to the Winneba Government Hospital, where the 2 dead bodies have been deposited.
Right. Richard, I'm going to have you hold the line. DSP Sefasatha, the Director of Police Public Affairs, is joining us on the other line. Hello, DSP.
Hello.
Right, yes, we understand 2 of your men have been shot and killed in Winneba. What's the latest on the situation?
Yeah, as you saw that we have lost 2 policemen in Winneba, and that happened when some armed robbers raided the area where they have their residence. Apparently, in that vicinity, we have police rented quarters, also inhabited by some students. And then when the armed robbers raided the area, they happened to extend their nefarious activities to this rented quarters. As in the course of this, that the policemen lost their lives. As it stands now, the homicide unit and the crime scene team from the CID headquarters have arrived at the scene of crime and commenced their investigations in earnest. Presently, no arrest has been made, but as the IGP, Mr. Mohammed Ahmed Al-Hassan, said, the police are going to do everything possible within our means to get to the bottom of this and bring the perpetrators to book. So he assured the family members of the bereaved, of the lost police officers and the management and staff of the university, which was also affected, that security measures are going to be put in place to ensure that their security is assured and to ensure that they are protected. So that is the current situation as we speak.
I see. Thank you very much, DSP Sefazatha. He is Director of Public Affairs with the Ghana Police Service. But I still have Richard Kujonyako, who is our Central Regional Correspondent, on the other line. Richard, you were telling us about this injured person. What's the situation with this injured person at the moment?
Well, when we went to the Winneba Government Hospital, we were told that he is in a stable condition and that they will help revive the situation. So as it stands now, I think everything is under control because the IGP and some of the senior policemen who came to the scene, they have started their investigation, and so they have calmed the fears of residents and the students.
Right. Thank you very much, Richard. Richard Kujonyako is Joy News correspondent in the Central Region, giving us an update on the shooting and killing of 2 police officers by armed robbers in the area. But in the studio with me is Raphael Yeboah. He is Executive Director, Forest Services Division of the Forestry Commission, and we've been talking about the battle against indiscriminate cutting down of our forest trees. And sorry for the break in the conversation. We had to go to the Central Region rather, but we were talking about the 62 guards who had been killed, the 62 deaths. What was the situation? I'm sure they were brought to the notice of the police, and some investigations were. How many of these perpetrators have been brought to book?
Yeah, I would say that yes, some reports were made, some arrests were made, and investigations are going on, some are in court. And I would say that so far we've not had a full conclusion of the adjudication of any of the matters.
None of the 62
is completed, but what is happening is that our legal directorate is actually observing brief, since murder cases are issues of the Attorney General. And what we are doing is we're closely monitoring some of these things to make sure that at least we secure favorable judgment in some of these.
Right, good. And so let's look at, finally, let's look at the way forward in dealing with, persons who end up, leading us fast towards the desertification lane.
Yes, I think you've rightly mentioned what is happening is that currently the once known very good forest lands that we have are actually dwindling. What is happening is that about 60% is as a result of agriculture, unsustainable agriculture and wildfires, and about 30% remains what is illegal harvesting of forest products, both timber and non-timber. So what we are doing currently is that we need to actually, the first thing is effective education and sensitization of the public to win their support by way of telling them the importance of these resources. For instance, if you take the Atiwa forest, that actually covers 3 rivers, Densu, Ayensu, and the Brim, that serve the whole of Greater Accra with water. If we lose this forest, it means that we need to import water for residents of Accra. Unfortunately, people are not aware of some of these things, so we are sensitizing people on this. The second way forward...
How fast are we approaching that level where we need to import water?
I would say that as at now, at the turn of the 19th century, we had 8.2 million of hectares of forest cover, but now we have only 1.6 million. And it is estimated that we are losing this forest at 1.3% annually. So that if you do the calculations and we are not careful, in the next 20 to 30 years, if the status quo remains, we are going to have serious problems. So the education is very important. The second one is protection of the natural forest, which we have discussed in terms of beefing up forest gas numbers, in terms of establishing the rapid response team, our legal team, prosecution and other things. And the third one is actually finding also new ways, like establishing wood tracking systems that can say that this wood is legal or not legal. And last but not the least is also intensifying our tree planting exercise, national restoration, reforestation exercise, to make sure that we cash in the gap by planting more trees to avert any situation that will put us in the calamity.
Something just, I know I said that was the last one, but where do we draw the line between indiscriminating felling our trees and the fact that we do need wood for furniture, we need it for furnishings, and stuff like that? How do people who need that raw material go about getting the raw material? How should they do that?
Yes, I think there are various legal sources. And the legal sources broadly can be put under properly acquiring a concession or a permit. Then again, we can also look at if there are developments and there are other trees that are felled. Like for instance, Ghana remains an agricultural country and land clearing actually results in removal of a number of trees. So those trees can properly be converted to what we need.
Do we replace those trees? Because it will make no difference to the environment, whether you're legal or not, and you're cutting down the trees without replacing them.
Unfortunately, as to agriculture, the system is such that people do not plant trees as they cut them. But there are also organized restoration areas. And like for instance, the government currently is undertaking a national plantation development program at a target of 10,000 hectares per annum.
Right.
And these are supposed to replenish what we are removing. And so somehow, but the rate at which we are planting is not commensurate with how we are removing. So always there is a gap. And I think
Raphael, tell me something. So it means that we offer licenses to legal log operators.
Yes, we do.
And we do not bind them in any way to replace the trees they cut.
Yes.
That is sad, isn't it?
Yeah, I think let's actually look at it from the point of view that a timber contractor is a businessman. Once he pays his taxes, somebody should also have to take up the tax of also planting. You cannot say that.
Does the Forestry Commission do that?
Yes, that's what the Forestry Commission is now currently saddled with. But it's important that collectively, if we have systems where individuals on their farms, they plant 1 or 2 trees, like 5 million farmers, and if each is planting 1 tree, you can imagine the number of trees that we have.
Right. We need an attitude change.
Yes,
I believe that's where we are boiling down to. Right. Thank you very much, Raphael, for your time this afternoon. Raphael Yeboah is Executive Director, Forestry Services Division of the Forestry Commission. You're watching the Midday Brief. When I come back, I'll read some of your messages on our social media platforms and we'll do some other stories. You're welcome back, and let's move into some other stories. President of Ghana, of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, Samuel Oforieje, is advocating for the introduction of value system in senior high school curricula. This, he says, will help instill discipline in students. Well, pretty shortly, Samuel should join us on telephone, but While we raise him, let's do some business. And Ghana placed second among 12 countries that have high yield on their bonds. That's according to EcoBank Research Africa Fixed Income Analysis. Malawi had an interest rate of 24.46 at 38.50 and 35% respectively on its 1, 3 and 5-year bonds. Ghana, on the other hand, follows closely with a yield of 21.9, 19.24 and 17.50 on its 1, 3-year and 7-year bonds. Nigeria, Tanzania and Zambia were also among countries that had yields of more than 13%. Right, and so joining me to, digest this issue is Samuel Ampa. He is a business analyst. Hello, Samuel.
Yes, hi.
Right, so these figures, the facts that Africa's, some of these countries, including Ghana, which came second in terms of yield on its bonds, what does this mean?
Well, this can be taken in two phases. It could be good, it could be bad. Currently, what it means is that the rates are very high for this country. And if things like that happen, it means that our fiscal strength is weak. You recall that we had a budget deficit of close to about 12.1% last year. And investors will look at these ones before they invest in a country like ours. So it's currently not a good sign for the country. But then it also has a good side as well. Investors will always want higher yields. So investors in the country will take advantage of the high yield bond and then invest in it. So investors are taking advantage as well. And then if you want to balance your portfolio, I guess a lot more will be looking at high yield bonds to also balance their portfolio to be able to make higher returns. So it has its both good sides and then bad sides.
Let's narrow down on Ghana. We have, seen some of these bonds go out already. What has the effect been on the country?
It has been positive for this country. I mean, government has been able to look at raising capital to do most of these infrastructural deficiencies that we have. At the same time, government shifting focus of issuing shorter-term investment, assets so that the rates within the country will still remain lower. So it has been good. I mean, otherwise, if government continued to borrow from the Ghana domestic market, then you could see higher interest rates, and which would not be good for the private sector to grow as well. So it's been good. I mean, government has gotten enough money. If you look at even the currency, it has helped the city to be able to hold its high rate of depreciation. That has been recorded last year. I mean, if you look at compared to last year's performance to this year's performance, the city has been quite astronomically doing well. So it's been good for this country.
Is there any other way we can go around offering high interest, when we know the global economic phenomenon which is happening now? Is there any way we can go around giving high interest on our bonds so that we can attract investors? Then any other way that we can do this and still have the positivity we have now?
It's not good. I mean, immediately you give higher yields or higher returns to your investors. I mean, basically, any economist or any analyst will see that you personally might be having some few economical challenge. Because if you look at the developed economies, I mean, the return on their yields are quite low. So most emerging markets, it wasn't surprising that you could hear most emerging markets having higher yields on their bonds. It is because basically they have some fiscal or some economic or somehow inflationary risk attached to the economy. So it will not be good. I will want to see a lower yield so that a lot more people can also have some confidence in our economy. Because if the ratings are affected, it definitely will also have an effect on your economy as well.
Do you suspect us issuing another anytime soon?
Yes, I mean, the bond market, I think currently we are not being active on the bond market. I expect that government will be very active on the bond market because that is the only way, I mean, that's one way to help. You know, in terms of raising cheaper capital to do so many things in this country and then not disturb the basic fundamentals of this economy. I mean, so I expect that the Bank of Ghana has issued, including the government of Ghana has issued a calendar for the bond issuance for this year. There's going to be more bond activity. The government is looking at even longer-term bonds. So apart from the 10-year Euro bond that we had, and then listing on the market as well also gives us the opportunity for people to also go and then trade on bonds. So the bond market is going to be very active. I'm looking forward.
Right. Thank you very much, Samuel. Samuel Ampa is the business analyst. We've been talking about the country's bond market activities. Let's now do some other stories now. Global growth is set to remain sluggish, a leading economic agency has said. As well, the recovery in developed economies has strengthened, many emerging economies have slowed. The OECD says the activity was expanding in North America, Japan and the UK at encouraging rates, but it warned that difficulties in emerging economies continue to drag down global growth. That's it for the segment. When I return, we'll do something else. Come back now. President of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, Samuel Oforieje, is advocating for the introduction of value system in senior high school curricula. This, he says, will help instill discipline in students. Samuel Oforieje is currently on our telephone. He will join us with an understanding of this. And Samuel, thank you for your time this afternoon. But why call for introduction of value system in senior high schools? This is not supposed to be, you know, an unread knowledge we should already have.
Yeah, we're not saying that it's not there. Our syllabus has embedded in them these value systems. But incidentally, you and I will agree that the fact on the ground does not show that our value systems are being recognized and incorporated into our educational system the way they should be done.
Right.
So what we have stated clearly, I may want to read that to you, is a communique we issued after our conference in Gofodia last week, that in order to regenerate as a nation, there is the urgent need for a stakeholders interaction session to clearly identify and adopt a national value system which must be consciously, and I underline the word consciously, incorporated into and transmitted throughout the entire educational process. So it's not only for the SS level,
right,
SS level as the introduction was made, but in the entire educational process. Yeah.
Right. And then again,
both formal and informal. Yeah.
I see. Then again, one would ask, what is this national value system that you're referring to?
We are talking of values like integrity, punctuality, humility. There are several of them. When you go to the Australian educational system, they have identified about 10 values which they incorporate consciously into any learner. And we need to also identify, we've not been able to come out clearly yet, but we believe that if we have a stakeholder session, we should be able to identify about 8, 9, 10, or even 12 values which we must consciously. And I'm saying that one of them could be punctuality. Because you can agree with me that even at the topmost level, a program is to start at 8, and by 8:30, even the invited guests are not seated, let alone the principal speaker getting seated. And these are things we must look at if we do not degenerate further as a nation.
So how do you suggest we go about incorporating this in the school curricula?
Well, as I said, the Curriculum Research and Development Division of GES tries to incorporate it into the various subjects that are taught. But you see, they get so embedded in the process that people, those who are supposed to teach it are even not conscious themselves of what is going on. If I am a teacher and I'm supposed to be in school, but I'm speaking as a headmaster and who is aware of what is happening in some of our schools, the teachers are supposed to be there by lessons will start at 8. Sometimes 8:15, 8:20, they are now walking into the classroom. I'm not talking about the classroom situation alone. In our offices, we know that work begins at 8. You go to certain offices by 8:30, 9, people are not seated behind their desks to start work. So what we are saying is that let us consciously identify where these values can fit into our educational system. Let those who are supposed to teach these things be role models themselves. If we have sanctions, if we have to exert sanctions to make people sit up and get these value systems embedded into the body politic, let us do that. And as I said, this is a suggestion was brought up. I'm sure there are others listening out there who have other wonderful suggestions which we can all bring together, put on board, and then implement as a nation.
Right. Thank you very much, Samuel. And we wish you a speedy recovery on your toothache as well.
Thank you very much.
Right. Samuel Ofori AJ is head of the Conference of Head of Secondary Schools. We do some international news now, and South Africa's president has said Nelson Mandela's discharge from hospital after nearly 3 months of treatment shows he has made progress. Jacob Zuma said South Africans were very happy that the anti-apartheid hero 95 had returned home on Sunday. Mandela was admitted to a private hospital in the capital Pretoria in June for a recurrent lung infection. He is revered around the world for leading the fight against the white minority in rule in South Africa. He became South Africa's first black president in 1994. Mandela spent 27 years in prison and preached reconciliation with South Africa's white community after his release in 1990. The presidency has said his home in Johannesburg, Houghton suburb, has been reconfigured so that he continues to receive intensive care. Well, in Syria, more than 2 million Syrians are now refugees, with a total going up by 1 million in 6 months. At least 700,000 have fled to Lebanon, and more Syrians are now displaced than any other nationality. That's it for the segment. Rashida Baba Kadiri will join us with some sports news.
You've got every reason to smile, of course, because we have the latest in the world of sports. And this morning, we were at the Black Stars training grounds at the Accra Sports Stadium, where Coach Kwesi Appiah has received 24 out of his 26-man squad for this Friday's World Cup qualifier against Zambia at the Babaya Stadium in Kumasi. Solomon Asante and Richard Kisi Boateng are yet to join the rest of the team, and so Coach Kwesi Appiah is waiting for them, or he's looking forward to having them latest by this afternoon, so they travel to Kumasi together tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, we've been speaking to Emmanuel Ajiman Bidu, who plays for Udinese and who's also been called, and Kwesi Appiah also speaks to Joy Sports.
So far, everything is going well. As you saw, the boys are seriously participating in every session that we did, and speaking to them, they are all psyched up for the game on Friday. Yeah, I've been with him since yesterday, to console him, and the good thing that you said was, the nation needs him now, and it's important that he shows what he can also offer the nation. the father's death is a big blow to him, but at the same time, it takes a week, under our customary. It takes a week for the family to decide on the decisions on the funeral arrangements. So for now, he would like to concentrate on the game, which for me is good for the nation. I believe that it's always good to have competition in the team, and at the same time, it's always good to have a good bench. And to be able to get that, you need to get all your best players in Ghana to be part of it.
It's the manager who decides. The most important, whoever start, we have to just think about the interests of the nation. So I'm ever ready, whether I will start from the bench or I will start the game. I'm ever ready to start from anywhere, unless the country's interests just behind before us. And if Ajimabari start, he doesn't matter. The most important is when I get the chance to come on the field, I will just do what I can do.
And the latest development is that skipper Asamoah Gyan sat out of training. He actually started the training with the team, but after 20 minutes, he had to step back because of an injury with his ankle, with a muscle. So we're seeing what's going to happen. Coach Kwesi Appiah says that he will be taken to the hospital to be examined. So as it stands now, we're not sure if Asamoah Gyan, the captain of the Black Stars, will indeed start on Friday or not, or if indeed he will even play at all. Away from that, let's just get back and just have a feel of what happened on the deadline day of the European. Gareth Bale speaking after his unveiling as a Real Madrid player, record fee of 100 million euros and on a weekly wage of £170,000 after taxes. So some of the deals that failed: Sami Khedira, he wanted to go to Manchester United, it failed. Herrera also wanted to go to United, but it also failed. And of course, Everton, they've signed Lukaku as well as Barry and then McCarthy. Of course, those are a few of the transfer deals that have happened lately. And then also PSG are looking at Luis Figo taking on the role of Leonardo. That's their current coach, so their current assistant coach. So let's see how it goes. Luis Figo set to be assistant coach at PSG. So we'll bring you all the details in our subsequent bulletins. Remember that the the sports segment on Midday Brief is proudly sponsored by Tigo.
Just before we do showbiz, let's bring you some news from the daily briefing at the Flagstaff House. And government says now that the election petition has ended, it will focus fully and continue to deliver on its Better Ghana agenda. Deputy Information Minister Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed at the briefing at the presidency said government's aim to enhancing the living conditions of Ghanaians remains intact. Murtala Mohammed also announced government's appreciation to the Labour Union for accepting the 10% base pay increase. The Deputy Minister said it takes a retrospective effect. Let's now do some showbiz. And the much publicized play of renowned playwright James Abel White's Men Run, Women Cry has been staged at the National Theatre, with patrons describing it as another intelligent piece.
Hey, George, look at the song you are singing. It is not gospel. They don't even have Jesus in it. Hey, George.
Okay, so you want a gospel song?
The play, which is set in a hairdressing salon, highlights the different ways men and women express their emotions in relationship crisis and how they react to those emotions. A typical example in the play is a young lady, Augusta, who gets her boyfriend running away from their relationship due to her disrespectful nature. Eventually, when it becomes obvious that she has lost the boyfriend, she breaks down and cries her heart out.
You know what? You can't marry her in addition to me.
Another popular scene in the play is Becky, who is getting made up for her wedding to Johan. But unknown to her, Johan is hopelessly chasing a girl he just met and has followed her to the same salon. Fortunately for Becky, Johan was under a spell from the necklace the girl was wearing. And so when the necklace is taken off, Johan is liberated and goes to marry Becky. Men Run, Women Cry is Anklebo's 20th place since 2008 when Roverman's production started its showings at the National Theatre. And this quarter's showing happens to also mark the 5th anniversary of Roverman's production. Patrons, as usual, could not hide their satisfaction. Men Run, Women Cry is showing again on September 7 and 8 at the National Theatre.
On Showbiz, and the final 4 contestants of the Vodafone Icon Street Edition have been interacting with a section of the media, telling them why they each deserve the grand prize of the competition. The media personnel also had the chance to experience how it is like to be in a singing competition.
At a pre-finale media cocktail organized for some selected media personnel and the final 4 Vodafone Icons contestants, the media were briefed about the mouth-watering prize package for the winner of the street edition of Icons. The winner gets to take home a 250,000 Ghana Cedi prize package, a record deal with Universal Records, a Kia Sportage, and a whole lot more. The media were also made to experience how fun or challenging it is to be in a singing competition. In threes, they entered into a karaoke competition.
Raise the roof and make some fun. Go away, there's work to be done. I was want to go make us so bad. Cause ever since my girl left it, my whole life been crashing. I'm so out.
Cheerleader, my dreams will seem the only day that had a football team.
And I must say, my group turned out the winner. For our prize, we got an applause. And the Vodafone team, I think they were in contempt. Just listen.
Goodbye, it's you. No, I'm with my boo, but you know I'm crazy over you.
I made this chicken, she just move her out the block for me. And though she got a house for me, the finest thing I'd ever know. But oh no, oh, she got a man in the sun though. So bad. Sorry?
I absolutely can't believe Gladys was a radio of Showbiz fame. By the way, your group wasn't first, at least by my take. But let's go back to the Flagstaff House where the Deputy Minister of Information, Murtala Mohammed, has been hinting on what the government will do now that the election petition is over, and then the issue with the 10% base pay increase. Let's take a listen.
The court case is over. The verdict was given. Government would want to say that the focus on ensuring the enhancement of the Better Ghana agenda as captured in the 2012 manifesto of the NDC is something that will be implemented in ENS. It is a fact that after you have won an elections and you are taken to court, you did not have the opportunity to have a honeymoon. It certainly would have distracted a lot of people and a lot of economic activities. Indeed, there were people in this country who were told who had even gone to change their monies to dollars and other foreign currencies because of the fear of possible violence. I think that Ghana has demonstrated once again that we are remaining a beacon of democracy in the sub-Saharan Africa. And credit to a very large extent must be given to this government, that this government allowed the process to move on smoothly. This government never did anything untoward to ensure that justice was done to the people of Ghana.
I'm unable to read your messages on our social media platform, and I apologize for that. But a recap of our headlines. An Inspector General of Police assessed the situation in Winneba after 2 police officers were shot and killed by armed robbers. Meanwhile, no arrest has been made. In business, analysts projects Ghana may increase its bond market activity by issuing more long-term bonds. In foreign news, South Africa's president says Nelson Mandela's discharge from hospital after nearly 3 months of treatment shows progress. Thanks for your company. My name is Kimini Nyamani Amana. Goodbye.